passing. You're welcome to Breakout Session 1. I am going to call on my first speaker, recognize one of my first speaker. I presume she may be online. Please help me check. Control room, help me check for Mrs. Mata Alade, the Executive Director of Women in Technology in Nigeria. Okay, so I have my online panelists. I will move over to the National Agency for Prohibition Trafficking in Persons, NAPTIP. My Oga himself and a figure of excellence. He spoke recently while the last session was ongoing. I'm going to be calling on Ngamariju T. Mangzha. I hope I got that right. Yes, thank you. Welcome. Please come on board. Going by existing protocol, I saw the Chief Operating Officer of NERA sit at the corner. She's not cornerstone, by the way, but she's sat in the corner, so I'll be taking that seat. Have a seat. I'll be calling on the second person from all the way from Nasarawa. Am I right, sir? All the way from Nasarawa. Dr. Uche Mbanaso, the Executive Director, Center for Cyberspace Studies, Nasarawa State University. Please, you're welcome, sir. We're expecting him on the panel also. Then I want to call on a brother, a father, a chairman, a giant, and a global identity when it comes to cyber security, cyber solution, a registrar of the Nigerian Internet Registration Association, no other person but I would prefer to call him doctor if he doesn't resist it. Dr. Segun Olugbile. Dr. Segun Olugbile. I'll get it. And then, to mix the table or the chairs, so to say, I'll be calling on Ms. Mary Udoma, the Ndukwe Kalu Foundation chair, ably represented by an expert in the house, and of course, a young person, one of the rising stars that you shouldn't miss. Is no other person but Abdulrazaq Iman, the program manager of NKF, Ndukwe Kalu Foundation. Please come on board. Okay. Do I have an extra mic or I'll be passing? Okay. Okay, so I won't be passing this mic. I'll be using it because I'm not used to the side mics. I'm a village boy, international village boy. And for the record, my name is Adewunmi Akinbo. For those who may be online who are joining us, this breakout session will be focusing on building a trusted internet, a focus on cybersecurity and child online security. Sorry, child online safety. Yes, all this, I printed it to use it. Okay, I haven't said that. Don't mind me, I love local content, so that's why I can't do without the bag. Okay. Okay, testing control. Can you hear me without this guy? Hello, testing. We're ready to go. Okay, so I'll be doing a quick introduction before we start the session. And this is not a parliament, so I don't want frown faces, I want smiley faces. We'll be talking about very delicate issues right here in this session, this particular session. I would not want to take too much of your time. If you don't get the message, just raise up your hand. I'll be able to backtrack on any questions so that we can all participate effectively. As Nigeria continues to transform its digital sphere with initiatives such as the digitalized National Identity Program with NIMC and investment in broadband and data infrastructure, it is critical that stakeholders prioritize building trust in digital services. Despite these efforts, cybersecurity threats are increasing, particularly for small, medium-sized enterprises. The country's internet, of course, development is still plagued with a high rate of cyber attacks, with SMEs and even government servers facing more threats. Trust is crucial for digital transformation, but frameworks have not kept pace with emerging technologies, and their adoption introducing new risks that demands new responses. To advance digital transformation and achieve a sustainable, secure internet in Nigeria, it is essential to explore the role of trust in digital services with a focus on user-level cyber awareness, SME cyber awareness, government cyber awareness, child online safety, and the resilience of the Nigerian digital economy to cyber threats. This discussion will examine the challenges and opportunities for building trust in Nigerian digital services, particularly in the context of cybersecurity and child online safety. The responses of internet stakeholders in supporting a secure and sustainable internet in Nigeria, as well as the role of regulatory and legal frameworks in building trust, will also be considered. This brings us to the theme once again, building a trusted internet on cybersecurity. I would call, of course, on my first panelist, the man from NAPTIP. And I would be, laying emphasis on the particular question, because before you talk about cybersecurity and child online, I think the most important digit is the child in the online, the child under the security prerequisite or POSIT. So, Mr. Mangzha, I'm going to ask you, what is the state of existing child online protection policies in Nigeria, and how effective have they been in promoting a safe and secure online space for the Nigerian children?
Thank you, the moderator. I bring you greetings from the Director General of NAPTIP. NAPTIP, first of all, is a focal agency in fighting human trafficking, child labor, and then violence against persons in Nigeria. So basically, the child online policies we have in Nigeria, we have a long list of policies that are being implemented by various government agencies, and we have among the policies, we have the National Information Technology, that is the ICT policy of NIDA, which specifically deals with issues of protection of child in the cyberspace. We have also the Nigerian Communications Commission policy. We have the National Agency for Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons Act, which is a law that also protects the child. We have sections of the law that protects the child. We have also the Evidence Act 2011. We have also the Child Rights Act, the Convention Against Rights. We have the National Broadcasting Code. We have the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act 2015. These are all policies that have been, by various agencies, has put in place to actually protect. And then recently we have the National Child Online Policy and Strategy, which I was privileged to be a member of the committee that actually drafted that policy and strategy. And that policy was actually passed and approved by the Federal Executive Council in January 2023. But it has not yet been fully put into, because it's going to be launched sometime. I can't put a date, but I know very soon the law will be made public. I mean, the policy will be made public and will be launched. All these policies have been put in place actually to protect the child. Even before then, there are several other laws governing that, and that this particular policy actually looks at 11 strategic trusts in order to protect the child, which involves the governance and implementation. We look at also the legal and regulatory framework. We look at reporting and support objectives. I only talk about, I want to emphasize on the reporting aspect of it. That is the area where we still lacking a lot of coordination, whereby, because a lot of these incidents come to us in Nigeria, most of us leverage on actually reports or tools from other organizations or from other countries to actually pull in data of incidences of child online sexual exploitation. So, but this policy has been put in place, but Alex, for us in the agency, we've been implementing especially the Violence Against Persons Act and also the the NAPTIP Act, which is the TP Act of 2015, which actually protects the child. And that was why the agency came up with issues of creating the cyber response team to actually protect the child. If we don't address that issue, especially that issue of reporting and also advocacy, definitely it won't. So in all these policies, all these have been addressed. It is now left for agencies, for the whole of society, not just the whole government, the whole of government and the whole of society to actually put in place and implement these laws. So, but for now, we have a lot of policies in place to actually tackle the issues of child online issues in Nigeria. So basically, that is where we are for now. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, thank you so much for that brief response. I want to go to security issues now, cybersecurity issues. Uh, I may not have mentioned that Segun Olugbile is the president of Global Network for Networks, and a former member of the United Nations IGF MAG, apart from being an NIGF MAG member. His background covers cybersecurity governance, data protection, child online protection, internet governance, and emerging technology for development. So I'll be giving you the next floor with a question of what step can the Nigerian government and other stakeholders take to address increasing cybersecurity threats faced by small and medium-sized enterprises and government servers?
Hello? Okay, thank you. Well, thank you, Mr. Moderator. Cybersecurity in Nigeria by now should be getting to the level of implementation. That is, implementing various measures that the government and the private sector or stakeholders, what they have done. And we have what we call a national cybersecurity program. And that program has been defined by the national cybersecurity strategy and policy, so to say. Now, within the component of that policy, the strategy, we have a part that seeks to address cybersecurity in the industry. And now the industry, we are looking at private sector. Within that private sector, we are looking at the ecosystem, SME, and all that. One of the first things that has been put in place, which is still ongoing, it's to expand the awareness. I would like to say that I'm quite a bit impressed that to an extent, the SME in Nigeria, they are getting a little bit more aware about cybercrime. How do I know? I happen to involved in e-Naira adoption project of the CBN. And then one of the things that we're supposed to do It is to send some links to partners and to ecosystem, especially the SME. But the moment they receive the link and all that, they will flag it. And why are they flagging it? Is because they already have information about do not that you should stop, think before you act. So we have gotten to some extent to that stage where people are not thinking. People are no longer pressing. When you if you receive if a business person receive a code now, the first thing that will come to his mind, he will be agitated. Then the next thing you want to find out if the code is real. Uh, Now, so the level of the awareness is ongoing and it's increasing. Then the second one has to do with the capacity building. I'm aware that that also is ongoing. Like I said, well, the trend is moving from advocacy. You know, we will always do advocacy and the awareness will always be there. But it is moving toward expanding and also empowering the SME so that by themselves they could start, not just addressing issues of cybersecurity, but they can also empower themselves. Then the last one has to do with measure. We also have a series of cybersecurity toolkits that has been designed for SMEs. And these, we have also seen various private sector, even government willingness to partner together. And my organization, for example, the Global Network for Cybersolutions, we have done substantial work within the NASIMA Chambers industry point of view. That is where you have the clusters of SME. So there are toolkits that are being designed, and those toolkits, they are not necessarily a technology toolkit. They are, number one, they are a manual, a guide that the business can use, and number two, they also like information about useful tips and tools, the software tool that could be used to protect yourself. And number three, also, it has to do with information within your devices that you yourself should be aware of to empower yourself, to help to safeguard you. So I think this process is ongoing and it's expanding, and I think we should just continue to deepen that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for that response. You've talked about toolkits designed for SMEs. You've talked about the in-era adoption as a way of protection, but you mentioned the keyword advocacy, and that would take me to Miss Martha Alade. I presume she's still online. Miss Martha Alade, you have the floor for the next question.
If you Hello, good afternoon, everyone. I'm here. Can you hear me?
We can hear you loud and clear, Martha Alade. Okay, so
so thank you so much for having me.
Hold on, Miss Martha.
I appreciate you all, and thanks for everyone who joined this breakout session. And Segun made 2 points that really speaks to what I'm about to talk to share. He said, at this point in Nigeria, we should be in the place of implementation of policies, and that a lot is being done to ensure that SMEs are brought to speed. But you all will agree with me that vulnerable populations are usually the easiest target of cyber criminals, especially those that are non-literate, the elderly, those in rural and underserved communities, as well as their children, women and girls. So now, I would like to share a project done by one of the government agencies, and the title of the project is Shine Your Eyes. It is a project by the NCC, Nigerian Communications Commission, and it is a model that I think is worthy of emulation in Africa to implement sustainable and scalable cybersecurity interventions for vulnerable populations. So in May this year, the NCC, through the Consumer Affairs Bureau and the Ministry of Communications, now Ministry of Communications, Innovation and Digital Economy, they partnered with my organization, Women in Technology in Nigeria, WITIN, to implement the NCC's Shine Your Eyes project in Ibadan. Now, the NCC chose us because we had strong grassroots presence in Ibadan, And we were recognized as one of the advocacy groups that are in touch with the people. So the Consumer Affairs Bureau of the NCC trained our team on telecom fraud safety and digital literacy in the local context that is relevant to Nigerians living in Western Nigeria. And by the way, that program, I think, is being implemented across Nigeria. I want to quickly use this opportunity to shout out to the phenomenal and amazing team members of the NCC Consumer Affairs Bureau, because they not only made impact to the ordinary Nigerians, they empowered within immensely. So after the training, we reached out together with the NCC team. We reached out to community leaders in Western Nigeria, ensuring that they understood the problem and why they should embrace the sensitization program. We made them understand the implication, the dangers of telecom fraud and what is happening. They understood, and immediately they bought into it. Immediately the leaders, the community leaders, bought into the project. They were the one who now mobilized the people to attend the program, instructing and mandating attendance. The markets were practically shut down so that people who were vulnerable could attend. Now, prior to that market sensitization, we had a whole day of road show with open trucks and performance with plenty of promotional materials like banners, handbills, dancing, and in the end, a lot of people got to understand the implication of telecom fraud to their businesses. As a matter of fact, during the program, people came to share instances of how they were robbed, how imposters would come on phone and ask them for their credit card details, how their accounts were wiped off. But interestingly, after that program, even till now, we are still, hearing success stories. So millions of people were impacted. And to me, I think that such a program, such a model is worthy of emulation, a model that empowered the community people, allowed them to see the, what is on ground, the dangers and how to mitigate those challenges. And then you will agree with me that a lot of SMEs too are owned by these non-literate people in the informal sector. And now with this program reaching millions of people in Western Nigeria, a lot of these women and, illiterate, non-literate people have been able to secure their businesses, and they now understood how to, combat cyber risks and challenges. And so that's a typical example. Let me end there. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Mata Alade. By the way, she runs Women in Tech, an NGO committed to gender equality, diversity, and inclusion. And she mentioned Shine Your Eye by the NCC, giving thumbs up to the NCC Consumers Affairs Bureau. That brings me to the issue of trust. Dr. Mbanaso, from your own perspective, what are the key factors that contribute to the issue of trust? And what can be used to strengthen or secure the internet in Nigeria?
Thank you very much. I bring greetings from Nasarawa State University. Well, trust is a very complex issue to discuss, and trust actually is the driver of the digital society. And because trust can be dimensioned in two ways. We have what we call technical or digital trust. You have a behavioral trust. So it is easy to look at digital or technical trust, but that of behavioral trust is quite very difficult. We are in a digital domain that is uncertain. There is nothing certain in the digital domain. And that is very, very important. And I've often said this, that the line of code that is a bomb is not visible to any man. So even you as a developer, you can come across that line of code and you will never know it's a digital bomb. And so the most important thing and societies are doing is building capacity. There are only two things that is very germane in this area, in the digital area, is knowledge and skills. And to take it to a further dimension, when we talk about cybersecurity, and I've often said that cybersecurity is not about technology, okay? And because when you strictly look cybersecurity from the point of view of technology, you miss out because it's so vast and there are a lot of dynamics, factors. People have talked about policy. Policy is not technology. People have talked about strategy. Strategy is not technology. People have talked about governance. Governance has nothing to do with technology. So you need to take a holistic approach when you talk about cybersecurity. And what is gluing all this together is trust. Now let me give you an example. If I deliver a software to a company and I sign a service level agreement with that company that, okay, this application will function as normal and I will not be able to infiltrate it to advance any interior objective, that is trust established. But the dynamics can change. So assuming a national security is interested in this particular company and approach me that it needs to be able to put a backdoor, let me speak in a way everybody would understand, into this software. There are several ways I can do this, abusing that trust that already established without my client knowing that something has taken place. So I have during patches, I have during upgrade, I have during update to infiltrate this company. And I have done that abusing the trust they have established, trusting me that I will be able to behave as expected at all times. The point is this is what we call behavioral trust. There is no way to be able to check this behavioral trust except with greater expertise. You can be able to check behavioral trust, whether people can actually adhere to expectations. So when we look at cybersecurity today, it must be very, very holistic. Now, what countries are doing to be able to uptake their cybersecurity is essentially building capacity. Education and awareness is very, very important. And education also can be dimensioned in many ways. Now, when you look at how people are approaching cybersecurity, you see that people in the social sciences are actually alienated. People just look at it as if it's an ICT thing. Then, if you talk about child online protection, for instance, the social scientist has a lot to offer in protection of a child, because you need to understand the psychology of a child to be able to provide solution how to make a child to be very safe. So I almost say that cybersecurity today has to be very, very holistic, encompassing of every field of human endeavor. So there is hardly any human endeavor today you cannot find an aspect of cybersecurity. So it's all encompassing. And this is where extensive education comes in. And another thing that we need to be able to be talking about is that, for instance, we, like my friend from, what is the organization? NAPTIP, he talked about policies. We have enough policies in this country. We have enough strategies in this country. But I think what is remaining is action. Action that has to be harmonized and coordinated so that we'll be able to measure where we are. If I want to measure where we are today, I cannot tap a button and get a current state of where our cybersecurity status is. For instance, a country in the UK, for instance, if you ask the number of PhDs they have produced in cybersecurity in the next 5 years, they will tell you. But this country, we don't know. We even don't know. If you ask them to tell you how many MSc students they have produced in cybersecurity, they will tell you. So it is very, very important for us to harmonize and coordinate our actions so that it will be able to help us to measure our progress, whether we are actually retrogressing or we are progressing, and be able to know where we are, at any point in time. So, in concluding, I would say that cybersecurity is very diverse, and like I said, the digital space is uncertain. And so, what we need is a greater education, and especially where the government will understand their roles, the industry will understand their roles, the academia will understand their role, because these three tripods must come together to actually advance our cybersecurity posture. And I will advise, because like we were talking about child protection, we don't have any institution today that actually can come out and speak authoritatively on child online protection by research input, because research is a feedback mechanism that you can use to improve a system. And so establishing centers of excellence by the government, will help us in this area to benchmark our cybersecurity posture. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. You touched a chord when you talked about the social sciences and the need for us to pay attention to stakeholders. Fortunately, I'm passionate about child online protection, and I'm a psychologist, a counselor, so I really appreciate touching that. And that takes me to some sort of people who have dedicated time and money to look at building capacity, knowledge and skills, education and awareness, who should be using that particular available drum, namely not say fund, to pay attention to child online protection. I want to call on Abdulrazaq Iman, Program Manager, Ndukwe Kalu Foundation. Please, could you expatiate what is Ndukwe Kalu Foundation doing? You've heard what the doctor said from Nasarawa State University. Please respond.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you once again. Good afternoon, everyone. Unfortunately, I'm here sitting down with the big bosses. Our mother was supposed to be sitting in place of me, Mrs. Mary Uduma. Unfortunately, she couldn't make it here. I'm Abdulrazaq, the programs manager of Ndukwe Kalu Foundation. And thank you for having me here. I hope I'm able to answer your question. What we try to do at Ndukwe Kalu Foundation, by the way, it's a special purpose vehicle for the Nigeria Internet Registration Association. Why should we be selling domain names and having so much profit, and in return, we are not able to give to the community? So that was how Ndukwe Kalu Foundation was birthed. Some of the core mandates we try to focus on are three. We try to look into the awareness issue and the multi-stakeholderism approach. Speaker from NAPTIP, and everyone has touched that. The cybersecurity, the cyberbullying, and the child online protection. NKF has everything under one umbrella. So what we try to do is, number one, we need to bring all the stakeholders involved into one umbrella to see how we're able to discuss about these issues. The major problem is the fact that, from the last high-level panel discussion, some of the youth were actually saying, which of course I'm also a youth, we are not involved in the process. And another issue is the channel to which will be broadcasted for the youth or for the public or for other multi-stakeholders groups or stakeholder groups to join these conversations are not there. So what we try to do as Ndukwe Kalu Foundation is, number one, to create a forum where different stakeholders are invited, just like we're sitting down, and also part of the audience, to have this conversation, which is called the Child Online Safety, Protection and Reporting of Abuse Summit. This holds every year. I mean, we were supposed to hold the first summit last year. Unfortunately, due to issues we were having at the country at that moment, we couldn't have that. But we are having that later this year. I mean, I think November, later this year, November, a summit. But before that, we also said the target audience are not the multi-stakeholders or the stakeholders involved, not just the youth, not just the women. However, we understand that they are responsible in keeping children safe wherever they are, the parents, the schools. So what we did was to step down before the summit and have a train the trainee program. And our focus were senior secondary schools, teachers. We will look for a way to train the teachers. In turn, the teachers go back to their schools to re-implement these into their curriculum and also some of their clubs. We are in partnership, of course, with NIDA and the NCC, which, of course, you recently know that NCC has, did rolled out child online protection document, which we all, gathered and gave them feedback. I think we got so much insight from there because at some point, just like he said, our fourth speaker said, is that the problem is that we don't have the statistics to use in making our decisions. So the best way we could approach that was to sync with NCC and NIDA and see how we could harmonize that data and for the foundation to use for their own purpose. So we teach the teachers, we invite them to the summit, we have the students involved, and the discussion happens. Secondly is that what we try to also do is we try to fix this problem bottom up. I mean, resolutions comes out. And this is something we really take serious. Before the summit, we've had our webinars where we invite speakers to give us their input. And after that, we bring it out in the form of resolution and put out our communique and see how we're able to touch that as a foundation. That way, I think we could pick it up individually. So what we now did secondly is to roll out capacity building. Okay, if you are targeting senior secondary schools, after that, what happens? When they go to the higher institution or universities, what happens? Should we just leave them to their lecturers or what? So what we try to do is to roll out capacity building in different training programs. It could be ICT, it could be policies, it could be implementation strategies, it could be whatever it could be. But what we try to do is to partner with such academias or institutions who in turn takes some of their mandates is that they train this youth. I always try to separate the youth, the women, and I also want to touch on graduates most especially. So after that, what happens? We touch this, we try to bring them into the spotlight and give them the required knowledge and skills to be part of the system. Lastly, we also try to sponsor research and development in the field of DNS, right? Most of the software we use down here, by the way, I wouldn't want to take much of our time in touching local content, which has been one of the issues Nigeria has been touching, to be sure that whatever we're using is within our landscape. So all we do is that we sponsor boot camps, we sponsor competitions in such a way that they're able to replicate the same software that we are paying in millions of dollars to use here. And see them build their own version of what it is. And if possible, of course, NIRA or NKF could pick on this projects and see how we could bring them into spotlight. So what we do basically as NKF is empowering ourselves to empower others and also empowering others to who some of their mandate is what we are also working on to support each other. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you so much for that. I want to quickly take it from where you're talking about training teachers, sponsoring research. I know Mr. Olugbile has done a lot of research, done a lot of papered presentation over the years, being an active member of the Internet Governance Forum. I want him to share regulatory approaches to addressing child online protection issues.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Child online protection is one of the early policy intervention that we did 2010 and with NCC, and I'm so much happy that your organization also reviewed and came up with a latest one. But just like what my very senior colleague, Dr. Mbanaso said, we've had enough of policies. I will advise, before I touch on the regulatory issues, I think it is time for us to scale our awareness and advocacy toward implementation. Let's do advocacy for implementation, not for policy formulation again. Now, on the child online protection, all these awareness, this and that, they are good. They are fantastic. At least they brought, it has the there's an opportunity to get the stakeholders informed and they capacitate them about what need to be done. But we're in Africa, and Nigeria for that matter. You can do awareness, nothing will happen. Commitment will be at zero level. Let me give an example. Data protection and privacy. You could imagine that if you talk about data protection and privacy, that organizations should respect citizen data. Yeah, they will say they've heard, and the government will just continue to do what they are doing, nothing will happen. But not until where you have a regulatory intervention in the context of enforcement. Now, that is where I will come in there. I will just give an advice, a kind of recommendation, that child online protection is seated on 5 pillars. The first one is ICT industry. The second one is on the children. The third on the teacher and the parents. And the fourth is on the law enforcement. And the last one is on the government side. Now, I will advise that the government side and the ICT industry side should work together. The other company that is not there, which is actually there, we can put it under the ICT. That's the research company and all that. Now, the regulation, there has to be a regulatory intervention to ensure that child online protection compliance is made effective. And then that should also define the approach toward our national cybersecurity. Because if you don't protect the younger ones, I can tell you, look at China. China has defined the cybersecurity in the context of content. If you abuse their president, you have committed cybercrime. And right there, they can arrest you. Russia, the same thing. But if you go to US doesn't care. They have a guarantee on liberty. You can do anything, provided you are not tampering with infrastructure. But Nigeria, what should be the approach to our cybersecurity? I think protecting the children. Someone talked about image abuse. There was an image content I shared with the coordinator of the West African IGF, Mrs. Uduma. I would have loved to demonstrate it here. Honestly speaking, if you don't do something in the next few years, all our children will be brainwashed. And I can tell you, you no longer have not just control, you will not even, you'll not be able to understand, even have an idea about the future. There must be regulatory intervention. Now, what do you regulate? Like I also observe, I will want us to take it that let us not start dealing with something that we cannot control. Deal with something that we can control. We can't control the platform. We don't own the technology. But the content, some of them we control, many of them we don't control it. But we can control what happened within our boundary, cyberspace boundary. And what you can do is to provide regulatory intervention. Now, the operator has to be brought into the regulatory net. The government has to find a ways and means to come up with a regulatory intervention in the context of compliance, set the standard. In the first instance of the child online protection, what we did, we came up with content filtering standard. And we also came up with idea that, see, we need to have a child-friendly operator, service operator, and provide standard. If they comply, then you give them a badge. That will give stakeholders or the customer to identify that, okay, these ones are conscious and they have implemented child online friendly services and all that. So not until when you do that, you keep on doing awareness, you keep on spending money, you keep on doing education, but the enforcement will not work. If the enforcement, it will not work. Lastly, if the enforcement is not there, the private sector will not move in. But when you have a regulatory intervention that has a standard in which various organizations has to comply, then the private sector will move in with what? Innovations. Innovation will thrive. Then you begin to see people like Cyber Diaries. They are here. They can now talk about tools. What tool can we use to do content filtering? Then you create opportunity out of it, while at the same time you are protecting that segment of the society. Thank you.
Loaded. That was very loaded, and I got the feel in the house that NCC is doing quite a lot in the area of child online protection and cybersecurity. Kudos to NCC. I also got the fact that advocacy for implementation, regulatory intervention is key and will determine cybersecurity issues. This brings me to your statement on incentive for for ensuring that child online protection policy is effectively done on your platform. Once you have something that's showing that you have a child online protection policy, you get an incentive, more or less like a badge. Like in those days when you used to say, okay, this website is safe to do money transaction. So I think that should bring me to Mr. Mangzha on cases pertaining to tech-generated GBV. What if we don't understand what sextortion of minors and etc. is all about? I used to be with Rebat Hub, and I understood that a lot of time when we're talking about child online protection, there were some particular things that a lot of us still did not understand. So in the light of those cases, I know you'd have gone through a lot of cases. Those cases would be like an eye-opener for us, even as the audience, and for those of us who are online, to understand how best to respond.
Thank you, Mr. Hello, thank you, moderator. Let me just clarify some things before we move. The policy that I talked about is actually, it was spearheaded by the Federal Ministry of Communication and Digital Economy, and then it is being chaired by NCC. So it's a multi-stakeholder and it's for Nigeria. So it's going to be passed because stakeholders from body tech, law enforcement, judiciary, all came and worked and reviewed the 2014 child online policy. So talking about law enforcement, let me just give you a little bit of statistics globally. It's whether we like it or not, just like we have emerging or new technologies, we have emerging crime. Child online and also sextortion is an emerging crime. Just like we have the AIs, the AOTs, robotics and what have you. It's also an emerging crime. Let me go out of Nigeria a little. Philippines, I think within the last 2 years, they've recorded reports of child online sexual exploitation to the tune of over 1 something million reports. How do they deal with that? Coming back to Nigeria, we're getting close to 300,000. As of yesterday, when I checked the database, we have reports of over 277,000 reports from ESPs. I'll explain how it comes. What we do, we've been able to partner with electronic service providers like Meta, TikTok, Instagram. Okay, Instagram is for Meta, other tech companies through the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. What they do is, whether we like it or not, most Nigerians are on these social media platforms, which are not actually registered. They are not Nigerian companies. They are offshore. They are not within our jurisdiction. So, and child online cybersecurity or cybercrime doesn't have border. It can be committed anywhere. It can be committed right here and you're here. It can be committed, somebody is here and is another country, but it can be committed right in your doorstep. You don't even know that that person is the one committing that crime. So we've been able to do that. How it filters this information to us is anybody in Nigeria that actually sends any CSAM, that's any child sexual abuse material or any child online material from any platform, Meta, Instagram, TikTok, Bumble, which is I think Badu, they used to call it, but I think Bumble is the name of the company. The telecoms, I mean the ESPs, filter it. By America's law, they filter it and pull all the IP addresses. And the IP addresses will link into Nigeria. And if it links into Nigeria, which service provider, which ISP in Nigeria has the IP address? It could be MTN, it could be Airtel, it could be any of our ISPs. And those companies will give us the user ID. They will give us the IP associated with that particular device. They will give us phone number, because most accounts now, before you open, especially for two-factor authentication, they will tell you compulsory to use phone numbers. In fact, we've insisted. In America, it's not compulsory, but in forums that we have gone, other places we've gone, Nigeria, especially those of us in Nigeria, we have insisted that anybody registering from Nigeria insists he uses phone number, because we know phone number is attached to a NIN number, to your NIN. And your NIN will give us a KYC. So we've been able to do that. So immediately it comes, we give, and it comes. It's so much you cannot access. You can imagine having 270,000 cases. You can't work on it. So we have to even prioritize these cases based on urgency and the ones that the child could be of imminent danger. The ones that the child could be either be trafficked or the child seems to commit suicide, sorry. So these are the ways we filter those, and we pull out the ones that we could quickly attend to. And we've noticed that 80% of the offenders are from Nigeria, and the victims are outside Nigeria. If you can remember how 419 started, the victims, most of the offenders were from Nigeria and the victims were outside Nigeria. So if we don't tackle it now, the offenders will come back and the victims will be more in Nigeria. But we've started seeing issues of revenge porn for even younger adults, university students. I have a lot of cases on my team of revenge porn. People, because you have issue with your girlfriend, and then especially, so that's why we need to tackle not just I keep saying not only just child online, but also young adults. There are a lot of young adults that are being do that. So this financial is coming back to financial sextortion. What do we do? This is a case, is an emerging case whereby somebody will tell you, send me a picture, a nude picture. Oh, I want to use it for a beauty pageant, or it happens to both young boys, young boys 14, 15, 16 years, send me a picture. They will send just a face. Oh, you're a fine boy, send me another picture. The boys will send their picture. I'm just talking about people keep thinking it's just girls, but it involves boys. You send me a picture, they will send. By the time he sends his picture, boom, if you don't pay, they will tell you, okay, send me $100, send me $50. If you don't pay, they will threaten you that they will send you, they will send to your parents, to your schoolmates. Imagine young boys. I can imagine even my child, when he does something, I notice that I had to stop it. If he does something, I said, I'll report to your classmate. He will become so agitated. So you can imagine when you say you're going to send a nude picture. And some of them have committed suicide. Some of them are in serious issues of depression because of that kind of situation. So what we normally do in this instance, we have both the victim side and the offender side. That is why our agency is a specialized agency whereby we have the Department of Counseling and Rehabilitation, whereby as we're investigating cases, the counselors are working alongside with the victims. So we've been able to do that sextortion. And when you pay, and that is why also we need to partner. We have partnered with PayPal, Western Union. Any transaction coming into the country that we suspect is a suspicious transaction based on any kind of child online sexual exploitation, they don't waste time. They give us a lot of information, especially used on that and any other payment platform. But now we've seen most of them use Bitcoins to pay. So, and that is another issue, another talk for another day. So those are the kind of things, those are the things we do. So by the time you keep on doing that, and if that child does not pay that money, at the time, how long will that child be paying $50, $20? He won't be able to get it because most times he will either get from his allowance that parents give him, or he will go and steal from his parents to pay. If you get to a level that he cannot pay again, and it becomes a suicide issue or becomes a problem. So that is what we call the financial sextortion. It's a global problem now, not just in Nigeria, it's a worldwide problem which we need to start working on. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. So a question to the audience. Who has heard of this sextortion before now? Oh, great, great. Now, who has received mails of, we're going to release certain information that we have about you, and else you pay to a certain Bitcoin? Who has received that? I have. Any other person? Okay, so I seem to be the only one here, apart from the other lady who has received such mails. Now, this brings me to response and reactions. Response and reaction based on a statement credited to Dr. Olugbile when he said, standard regulation will attract private investments. I want to take it to Dr. Mbanaso. Do you believe that standard regulations will attract private investments?
Thank you very much. Okay. Okay. Yeah, there's no doubt about that. A good regulatory environment will attract investment, but it's not just a matter of regulation. It's a matter of, implementing measures that will keep your cyberspace seen to be safe. So that is very, very fundamental. Like there was something he mentioned, and I was just imagining how that pans out in real life. So if you are tracing people by telephone, there's a vulnerability there. Because a good criminal will never use his telephone number to do anything nefarious. And these are why I said that we are on uncertain terrain. And there are a lot of dynamics that you need to be able to cater off. And so for you to really, I'm coming back to the question, but I just need to put that. For you to really tackle these issues, you need to do what we call hacking the hackers. That's the only way you can have a very objective. Otherwise, you can get in people who are innocent being punished for a crime they never committed, because it's an issue. Impersonation of digital identity. We used to say that nobody knows whether you're a dog at the end, because there is digital identity. It's digital. Your blood is not mapped to that digital identity. And so it is very, very important. And remember, this is why we talked about that trust is the driver of digital society, because you trust that what everybody is doing supposed to be as expected. Well, that doesn't happen in real life. So there is a lot of manipulation by malicious people because they want to be on court. So they do all kinds of things. They're always thinking ahead of the bureaucracies in the administrators who are working as cybersecurity experts. So when we talk about regulating the environment, we need to be able to show some level of seriousness in keeping our cyberspace safe. And that is very, very important. And this is where education, and I think our education in this area should be taken to primary school, secondary school, and the university, the earlier stage of things, just like they're doing GST in universities. I think cyber security 101 should be a compulsory subject in the universities and secondary schools and even primary schools, because as from age of 6 now, a lot of families give their children mobile phone to use. And so that is very, very important. That education, a compulsory education, not just what we are doing ad hocly, but a compulsory education of understanding the digital society, to know the dynamics and how we can be able to keep that environment secure is very, very important. It's very, very important. Thank you.
Okay, so I was thinking of something. Using my big mic because it's becoming more interactive, and at this point we're supposed to be reaching out to the audience to respond. So I don't know, control room, do you still accept it or you don't? Okay, I can go ahead with the smaller one. Okay, thank you. I'll be waiting for it. So while I'm waiting for that, I recall that Dr. Olugbile mentioned that use the word advocacy for implementation. He said regulatory intervention, advocacy for implementation. You can do all your document and policy, but if there's no advocacy to implement such guidelines, am I right, sir? If there is no advocacy for such implementation, it would affect a lot of things. Reacting briefly to Mr. Maganza's statement, okay, whatever we say, I know everyone already knows. There's a time I believe that Gmail shouldn't ask for my number because I want to register a Gmail account. Now, the reason why I felt that is, if you have one of my number, and I'm using that one number to register multiple emails, I think your duty is not to stop me from registering multiple emails with the same number. Why? It effectively allows the enforcer to understand that if I commit a crime with any of the emails, then it's easy for them to trace. So, based on this, I would have loved to, if Alade, Mata Alade is online, because we are coming back to education, and we're talking about Cybersecurity 101. During the first session held by Eyitayo, there was the mention that the Ministry of Education should have been here. I have come across, I remember doing Safer Internet Days using the NCC developed manual. So if NCC is doing so much, and we are talking education, women in technology, what is your reaction? Okay.
So, yes, truly the NCC is doing so much, and I think a lot of people do not know how far how much they are doing. So in terms of education, yes, it is very, very important. Like I said, if you look at the key word in this entire program is trust. And one way to build trust is for the people to believe in whatever you are doing. And that will drive implementation and enforcement if the people buy into it. And that is why the program I gave as an example really, really made impact, because the people believe in their leaders. Those community people, they believe in their leaders more than the government or anybody that wants to talk to them. So the best way to get them to, get whatever you want to do is through their community leaders, their market leaders, their group leaders, any kind of leadership they have. Then another thing I want to say is, we should also remember that about 70% of the Nigerian population comprises young people, and a lot of them are students in secondary schools, in primary school, and even in the university. So a key set of people that should not be overlooked are the teachers. Do you know, or some of us may not know, that a lot of young people spend more time with their teachers than even their parents or any other person. So empowering teachers and bringing in teachers as formidable stakeholders will go a long way to enforce, to implement, to drive to the grassroots and to the people whatever we are interested in passing across. So that's my take on it.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Still on reaction, I understand very well some of the duties of NERA. I'm fortunate. I'm very fortunate to have, passed through NERA and still a member of NERA. I understand why, fortunately, as a student of history and as a participant in history, the formation of the Ndukwe Kalu Foundation. I also understand that Ndukwe Kalu Foundation, prior to as a vehicle with NERA, has something called the NERA Academy, which of course the Ndukwe Kalu Foundation supports. Now there's a mention of Cybersecurity 101, not sounding selfish. Can't it be part of a project that NERA, using the Ndukwe Kalu Foundation as a platform, support, basically on the issue of child online protection?
I think. Okay. That's a multi-angle question, right? So just the way the Kalu Foundation is independently operating from NERA, I think that's the same way .ng is operating. And I could remember one of the first training we did was to reach out to .ng Academy to understand how NKF can take advantage of their syllabus. And the first question they asked was that, what's NKF objectives? And we tell them that the objective of NKF is to teach, enroll training based on the business of NERA. Of course, sometimes it's easy to be up there and see things to implement down here. And sometimes the ones who implement those programs or objectives are the one who truly sees the statistics in which the public uses. So all we did was to partner with .ng Academy. They're in the forefront of what they feel, what training they feel should be enrolled to the public. And while NKF stands on that mandate we have to train, what I'm trying to say is that when we rolled out teachers training, that is train to training, the objective was for us to get the teachers go back to their schools to implement this into their curriculum. And NKF was supposed to teach this. We have the manual from NCC. Now what we did was to route it back to .ng Academy. So we are working in line to see how to keep rolling out these trainings. And as time goes on, we are in line with the objectives too.
Okay, so we're getting somewhere. So now we have 20 minutes more, if I'm not wrong. If I'm wrong, we have 20 more minutes or more, or we're wrapping. We have less than. Okay, so audience have been told we have less than 10 minutes more. Okay, we have a green light? No. Okay, we have less than 10 minutes. So audience, use your 10 minutes wisely. Questions, reactions. Questions and reactions. Okay, I have 3 hands up. I'm going to give you numbers. Okay, and let's be 1 minute each. Hold on. I want to give out my numbers so that I don't get a sudden hands up from somewhere else. So you're number 1, coming forward. Number 2, behind you, waving. Number 3, the lady in glasses here. Number 4, number 5, 6, 7. Please, you have 60 seconds for your reactions or question. 60 seconds, your time starts now.
Okay, yeah, so.
Online, please hold on. How many do we have online? How many hands up? None for now. So we'll give them 2 hands. Okay, 1 hand is up. That's number 8, 9. Okay, just 9. Stop there, just 9. Thank you. And they have just 60 seconds. Your time starts now.
So this is just a reaction. I just wanted to introduce. I'm a civil society organization, Action Against Child Sexual Abuse Initiative, and most recently we are the in Hope hotline. We call them internet hotlines, where you report and remove child sexual abuse materials. So while listening to everything that was happening, I'm very in tune with what's happening in NAPTIP too, and with everything that's happening with sextortion, which is why, as a hotline,
Sorry, whoever is online, please mute. Thank you.
Okay.
Online participant, please mute.
Yeah. So as a hotline, we have a technology that is supported by InHope, which is a global chain of hotlines where you can report these child sexual abuse materials, or used to call child pornographic materials, and then with this technology, we process it to remove it, working in conjunction with internet service providers and of course host organizations too. I just wanted to react to that, and having listened to everything, I just thought it was a good platform for me to also talk about the work we're doing, and definitely with everyone else. Thank you.
Thank you so much. You could wait later and network with the NAPTIP contact. 2, Dr. Hassan, here to my left.
Thank you.
60 seconds.
Yeah, great. So I just wanted to react to the comments so far. Oh, okay. So the comment so far shows that from what Prof. Mbanaso said, and listening to other people, I think this awareness, Uncle Segun was trying to say that we have done enough. We have not done enough. We are still needing to do more. But I really think that going forward, we need to deliberately take an action plan from here on strategies that we can move forward in advocating for this protection. And unfortunately, my remark is that there's no security organs or agent of government that is here with us. And I think that's a big issue, because we can't talk about cybercrime when those who are prosecuting and those who are going to be managing the issues. Because if there's any crime, just like my sister just told us what she's doing, how much of that does the police force know? How much of what we're talking about on the policy do they know? So there is so lots that we need to begin to, because Nigeria, we are just wonderfully talking about these things, but the action plan for cybercrime is not even with us. If they arrest somebody today for a crime, they don't call any of us to come and be part of the discussion. So who is really doing what? What exactly is the law that is helping us out? I really think that we need to come together for once. This next meeting, maybe not, and we can't afford to wait for 1 year of West Africa IGF. We need to take proactive action to meet with the real security people. And by the way, at iTech Center, we will be hosting community policing in November. And I want to believe that all of us will be part, because we deliberately work with the government, I mean the police, the security organs, NOA, military, all of them. They've been trying to work with us. And at a time at that, we realized that they even needed policy. And I'm told that there are a lot of policies already. So we need to let them know what we have, and then what they have, and then how do we synergize. If they arrest anybody today for any crime, they don't call you, they don't call Uncle Segun, they don't call Prof, they don't call any of us. The lawyers deal with it. And so we need to know about all of these laws that have to do with legal framework that help us to collaborate. And I think it's very important to say it at this place.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you so much. Next, number 3. Let's make it fast. 60 seconds each, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Faith, and I work for Ligda. I wanted to ask the NAPTIP representative what NAPTIP actually do to ensure that there's no continuous spread of child pornographic content online. I'm happy to hear what you're doing, but then I was going to use the case of the Chrisland scandal, and there was a lot of spread of that particular content, and it wasn't a right thing. So I don't know what NAPTIP actually do to prevent that, and are people even aware that they should not spread content regarding child pornography online? Thank you.
Noted. Quickly, next person, quickly. NAPTIP will respond after the 7th person and the 2 online.
Okay, good afternoon, sir. My name is Victor Effiong. I'm a banker. And I want to really know because one of our speakers said something about the technical committee, which plays a major role in accordance with the government. Now, in the Nigerian society, the technical committee is kind of open in terms of ICT. Everybody comes in, and basically, there have not really been a very strong implementation in terms of regulating the practitioners. I don't think there's a good database of how many people are really practicing what they do. So these contents can really come up from anywhere. I can't really track who is coming in, who is doing it. I think one of the speakers said that most of the offenders are from Nigeria, and they probably get it from professionals. And our doctor here said we need to actually train, do what we call hacking the hackers. So we really need to know who are practicing, so we can really build more capacity on them. But where we don't know them, anybody can use them, especially in these days of unemployment, that anybody can be a tool to be used by the bad guys. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you. Next person, quickly. 60 seconds, please.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Abdulrazaq Bello. I work with CCA, Customer Court of Appeal, Abuja. Please, I think I would like to dwell on what this my uncle has said before. The issue of implementation. To be sincere with you, in Nigeria, to implement things are not easy. Do you know up till now you can still get registered SIM without your identity? I don't know if you know it happened up till now. Last week somebody did it, and I was just shaking my head. I said, no, Nigeria, we have a long way to go. Please, with this kind of advocacy, if I may call it, I want the government to really work with NIMSI so much, because these are places that, and beside, you sanction any company that, any telecoms that register, that you observe a registered SIM with unknown identity. Please, the government should do a lot to. That is why people can just go and register. You just go and pick somebody in the village, register a SIM, it now come to the city and commit a lot of fraud with it. It's happening up till now. This, what I'm telling you, is happened last week. I don't want to mention the telecoms company. The guy said, no, I will get you one. He went and got me the SIM. I shook my head. I said, no, we still have a long way
get
to
to
go.
that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so we have online, we have 2 people, right? Confirmed. Okay, first person, go ahead.
All right, thank you so much. Good afternoon. My name is Abraham Twaki, and I work with the Federal University of Technology, Mina, as a senior system analyst. I quite see this platform very rich with great ideas and innovations, and quite a lot being done on the internet space. But I have a question for NIRA, NIDA, and NCC as a whole. We have a global community, and then we have quite large contents that go out there, and children and teens have access to all of this content. But unfortunately, there seems to be a trend. I work in a campus. There seems to be a trend that students who have access to these platforms, where you have things on TikTok and all of this social media, are very much behind the class in their studies, and it also affects their how do I put it, their relationship in the society. What can NIRA, NCC, NIDA do, in ensuring proper monitoring to see how these things can be controlled? Because it is quite alarming. It's drawing these young ones to things that one cannot just imagine. Some of them just drop out of school, and then when you check, it's due to long times being spent on the internet. What can the government really do to come about with policies that can help to regulate these contents, and then how these great future leaders can be helped? That's my major concern. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Second person.
Hi everyone, my name is Joy Eziashi. I work with Impact Amplifier. We currently are working with Google to fund the African Online Safety Fund, And I noticed that during these applications, a lot of organizations that do this proper on the community work on online safety don't apply. And we had a lot of application coming from people looking for funds for their farm and a lot of other aspects of that is not related to online safety. So I think we should also involve the academicians. As one of the speakers said, there is a gap in terms of research. A lot of countries that are involved in this online safety fund, like South Africa, had University of South Africa apply for this fund, but there was no application from any of the Nigerian universities. I don't know how we can also involve these universities in terms of research to get involved and get funds, because there are organizations that are willing to fund research for online safety, but there are no applications coming in. Again, I also wanted to say that in terms of the reporting aspect is also an issue, and documenting really is also an issue. There are a lot of organizations doing these things, but they are not documenting their impacts. It's one of the aspects that we see, that when you want to get funds, we don't have documents of your impacts or your financial trade or what you've used the money that has been given to you before. So these are some of the problems in terms of these organizations coming for funds. So I think there should be a lot of awareness in terms of people that want funds, especially in the universities. That's
Okay, Joy.
my contribution.
Joy, if you can hear me, you've spoken about impact as a form of getting funding. Please reach out to the NIGF Secretariat to share your information, and this information will be shared with all stakeholders to ensure that we don't miss such funds for any of these stakeholders who may need such intervention. I have 2 more 60 seconds. Okay, I have 3 more 60 seconds on this floor. 3 more 60 seconds. I'm going to start with 1. Nera, I presume, the man behind with the red handkerchief. 2, and the lady in crimson. Am I right? Crimson. Just 3. Thank you.
Good afternoon, all. Thank you for the insightful conversation. I think I would like to say that one thing that comes out here is the need for deliberate sensitization. And I would even say going down, as in the speaker from the university had stated, that I think it shouldn't even start from secondary school, because a lot of times children dabble into the internet from a very young age. So even before they know the benefits of the internet, they are already on social media. So the question is what the question is, what are we doing for the children from the primary school? That's one. Right here, what I hear a lot is us talking about the government, the schools. Of course, the education sector should actually be, a huge part of this conversation. But my question is, there's also kind of like a group we are forgetting, which is the parenting, the home. A lot of times we have left that, and we are kind of placing everything on the government and expecting the government to do. I think with this sensitization also comes to say, in the school system, also look to say, how do we get to the parents? Such things such as the PTA association, how do we get to inform them to kind of help enlighten their children on the the dangers of social media, the dangers of the internet, and how to protect themselves against this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. My name is Emmanuel Okoy. I'm a cybersecurity and forensic expert. My suggestions and contribution is to remind us, just like the professor, the Dr. Mbanaso have said, and every other speaker have spoken, trust is essential, but trust that is unknown is dangerous. The persons who make policies and those who try to implement or execute them are they truly equipped with this knowledge, understanding the consequences of the grassroots? We make policies, the policies are too much to even read. How many persons are reading? And when we read, do we actually implement them the way it's supposed to be with the latest updates and tools possibly necessary to carry out this type of operation? So for my own, I'm thinking that what the system should look at the top, those who are sitting there, who are making this policy. Have you come to the grassroots to see how it works? You're making policy for persons that are in the office and not persons who are in the field, who combat, who see this thing in real life. Because those are the persons who are supposed to say, okay, this is how it works, because I've tested it. So that's what I can say. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The last person. Last person.
Good afternoon, all protocols duly observed. Professor Mbanaso, I greet you, sir. I've heard so much about you. I'm just meeting for the first time. Thank you, sir. My own is, she actually spoke my mind. Our parents, we talk about how our kids will be safe online. What are our parents doing? They themselves, we the parents, do we know some of these things? Because you can't give what you don't have, that's the truth. So we also need to sensitize our parents, especially our mothers, because our kids are also exposed to the same internet that we have, just like Prof and others had said. And again, thank you, Uncle. You mentioned content filtering, because I was going to go into that. Countries like China, well, and other countries, they have this censorship. Could we implement censorship in Nigeria? Like you censor the contents that we have, and then also even at the ISP level, you know, at different levels, organizational levels, can we also implement content filtering? That way, it's also going to help to protect ourselves, even protect our children and ourselves. Now, concerning what I'm doing, sometime last year, myself and a colleague, we developed an application that is an extension will be added to our browsers, which will help to monitor what our kids are doing online. You don't have to be there with them. You might be in your place of work or wherever you are, and then the model will help you to monitor what your kids are doing. It will capture the active application of the child at every point in time. It will take snapshots of the child, so that even while you are at work, it will help you to know if that environment that your system captured, if it is a known environment, and if it is not, you can raise an alarm instantly. The application also helps parents to send instant message to the child. So whether the child is there or not, the parents are aware of what he or she is doing. Thank you very much.
Okay, you asked a question, and then you also marketed your product.
It's still a work in progress, sir.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, so yeah, so we're going to give our panelists 1 minute each or two to respond. It's been a rich session. I see the fire in a lot of us. We still want to talk. I want to thank, first of all, before they respond, the educative manner in taking you from the basic to the advanced stage of understanding the thematic focus of this particular session. So based on that, we're about to have another class, three minutes max from each panelist, starting from my honorable right. Thank you. Oh, okay. Okay, we'll try the 1 minute.
Okay, from there.
Hello? So, okay. This is a very big subject matter. That 1 minute, I don't know how we can do justice to it. Well, let me still take it back to where we started from. Nigeria is a very big country. For an organization to do awareness across all this country, they will just kill themselves. Let's be fair to ourselves. Because let's be factual to ourselves. Because the country is big and the problem is big. And you are dealing with people I'm talking about most of our people at the community level. They are not even aware of what we're talking about. So where do you start from? Digital literacy. So I will recommend that thank God that government is doing something on digital literacy. And number two, we are in the eras of skill acquisition and empowerment. Where we do awareness, skill acquisition should be elevated. That is that. Then my last point, which I will conclude with, has to do with regulation. Someone talked about how do you involve technical community to be part of this and content filtering and all that. Let me communicate this clearly. Cybersecurity is a business. Cybersecurity is a very big industry. The more problem you create, the more opportunity for people that can provide solutions. Someone got to pay for the money. Now, what I say in essence is that for us to engage our teeming youth, like he said, we have millions of youth. There are enough problems that we can use regulations to provide opportunity for them to be engaged. Let me just give an insight. Sorry. The last child online protection that we did, we view child online protection as an emerging industry, especially among the teacher and the school sector. Because you are going to have, if you have a standard, and the standard is communicated by the government that all schools in Nigeria should comply with that standard on child online, you are going to trigger another industry in that area. You are going to have a solution provider that will provide tools. You are going to have a teacher that will be standardized in that knowledge to be able to provide all that we are talking about here. But if you're talking about awareness, they will talk about awareness just like a kind of how can I put it? They will talk about it on the sideline, nothing will happen. But not until when you have a conscious effort in enforcement, a conscious effort in regulation, a conscious effort in implementation, a conscious effort in monitoring that policy, whether it is working, and you do a performance evaluation, then you can come back and say that, are we really working? So that is the little I can add. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. NKF.
Okay, thank you. I want to go back to 5 years ago. I mean, 2016, 2017, I was part of a stakeholder group that was invited by Budget. What they did was to have each stakeholder group represented in that meeting. The discussion was that how do we protect the internet? At that point in time, the discussion wasn't about the children or something like it was generally how do we protect the internet? How do we have access to data? How do we report issues? How do we do that? How do we do this based on the internet? Fast forward now, I'm fortunate to lead a program that focuses on child online safety, which is, by the way, one of the organizations that have started, I think NKF is the first organization that have started that. Looking at that, what we try to do is to bring teachers on board. When we say teachers, so unfortunately I didn't mention parents. Parents are involved through NAPTIP. The president of National Parent Teachers Association is on board with us. And in fact, that was a single point of us getting through to the schools and also secondary education board. So what we'll do is that we take the 6 geopolitical zones in Nigeria as stakeholders, right? Right now, going into each of those geopolitical zones, the stakeholders now come into play. We are not just focused on Abuja, Lagos, or Port Harcourt, whatever the case may be. Each geopolitical zone is represented. And we try to do the best we could. I mean, we have minimum resources, right? What we can do is to see how we can use the resources we have on board to see how to push the awareness, promote the multi-stakeholder sensitization, and also bring other giants, right? I mean, NAPTIP has been a giant for long, and their point of contact.
Yeah, the breakout route is closing now.
So,
the breakout room is closing now.
So just rounding up, I mean, that's basically.
And I want to say a word or two, unfortunately.
Okay, over to you, Martha, because of the closure. Go ahead, Martha.
So,
we have a project called teachers.ng, and that project has been running for over 20 years. And through that project, we have been able to drive grassroots child online protection initiatives. Women Pride.Africa too, we are reaching women too through online safety. Then I want to say, instead of censorship, why not make more advocacy for more constructive contents, so that those constructive contents will push out the useless contents that are all over our.
Okay, thank you, Mata. Thank you for that.
Recording in progress.
All right. Sorry, in conclusion, let me just say, because when I had two people, the prof said hacking the hackers, definitely the information we get from service providers is just a lead. We have trained open source intelligence officers that work on the team. So that's for that. Then for issues of IP issues with telecoms, I would like to call on telecoms to help us a lot, because version 4, version 6, we're still using version 4. And when we request for an IP address, a device that an IP address, it takes a long time, because that IP could be assigned to so many devices within a long period of time. So that is a problem for us in investigation, especially when it comes to child online protection. When we need quick action, we never get that from our telecom. That is a problem to us. And then our funding issues, and then talking about contents, there's a technology now called photo DNA, which helps identify child online materials that have been circulating. So if you report that, don't send the picture. You can, I'll relate to the secretariat, so that there's a particular platform we send, and all the electronic service provider globally sees that material, and it's just the URL they need, and they will take down that particular, and using some of them have the photo DNA technology which they use. And then also for law enforcement agencies, somebody said there's no law enforcement agency here. NAPTIP is a focal law enforcement agency in Nigeria. We arrest, we investigate, we detain, and we prosecute. And Section 23 of our Act gives us the power, issues of pornographic and child online. So we do that a lot also. So I'm just trying to hurry up. And also for issues of, we've worked with a lot of, the law enforcement through the FI field office in Nigeria. We've served subpoenas to Google, we've served subpoenas to Facebook. We have a direct reporting channel with Facebook, WhatsApp, and Instagram. If there's a content, we can be able to send for them to, some of them that are critical, some of them, if it's the issue of child, even without a court order, we call it emergency response. So we usually handle that quickly without even a court order. But if it's an adult, definitely we need to go to court, because issues of child protection is an emergency case. So we don't play with that. Thank you very much.
Professor.
Thank you very much. First of all, let me commend that lady, especially for the development. This is what we talked about, local content, and it should be encouraged, because that can actually help us in containing the child abuse. However, I think we have talked so much, we have deliberated so much, but I think we have to move from policy and strategy to actions. And my question is, what are the necessary actions to be taken? So that is what NGF should come up with. What are the necessary actions? Who are going to be the leads for these actions? I'm very glad that NAPTIP, is leading as an enforcement agency. Okay, we need to also define the roles and responsibilities, because we have this issue of agency rivalry all the time. So we need to aptly define the roles and responsibilities. We also need, like we have said, inclusive of digital society curriculum in both primary, secondary, and tertiary education. But most importantly is the role of research and development. We are talking about local content, and somebody talked about censorship. Censorship is against free internet. And once you start censoring, it's against the free internet. So there must always be a balance. When we also talk about these issues, we talk about balancing the risk. And so with the advent of the AI, we can do a lot without actually being so intrusive in what we do. Even this registration of SIM card, if you go to UK, you don't go and register SIM card, but they still know who is using the number. You go to most advanced countries, there's no place you go and register SIM card. But once you make a call, they know you are the one doing the call. So we should, use technology to advance how we govern the society, and that will help a lot of issues. More importantly, let me make conclusion. We make too much noise and do less. Thank you.
Thank you so much. On this note, I want to appreciate Ms. Martha Alade, the Executive Director, Women in Technology in Nigeria, Ngamariju T. Mangzha, the National Agency for Prohibition of Trafficking in Person, NAPTIP, Mr. Segun Olugbile, Director, Global Network for Cybersolution, GNC, Abdulrazaq, Imam, Program Manager, NKF, and of course Professor Uche Mbanaso for an excellent session. And I still remain your humble servant, Adewunmi Akinbo. Please, a round of applause for our panelists. Let them write for the pictures, please. Pictures, please.